There's a huge debate about whether to register with Yoga Alliance. We see a lot of people talking about whether you should register as a teacher, but we don't see as a lot of people talking about whether you should register as a school. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Are you ready to become a yoga trainer? Welcome to the Yoga Trainer Fast Track.
We help experienced yoga teachers become trainers in their very own yoga teacher training school.
If you wish it was easier to have your own training, we share tips and tutorials to make your wish come true.
If you're an experienced yoga teacher, like and subscribe to get free resources so we keep making more videos. With that being said, let's get started.
When it comes to registering with Yoga Alliance, if I were to tell the truth, Claire, I did not register with Yoga Alliance as a teacher until I wanted to become a trainer. So
Me either.
you either? Okay. Yoga Alliance registration, I didn't really see that much value in it. I was actually already registered with another organization for the kind of yoga that I did. Felt like that was enough. Didn't see the value. But then when I became a school owner and I wanted to open a school, I had a student wag her finger at me and say, I want to take a training that's registered with Yoga Alliance. And that's when I started looking into it. And what I found out was that Yoga Alliance will let you register as a teacher on Yoga Alliance as long as you've done a training with a registered yoga school. It doesn't matter how long after. So even though I did my training in 1998, I was able to register for my school in, I think it was 2012. So that was almost 14 years later. And if your school is still registered, they'll approve it. And if your school that you trained with is not registered anymore, Yoga Alliance can approve it. They can go back through their records and see whether there was a registered school by your certificate name. If you don't have a certificate, you're probably going to have some trouble. But if you have that certificate, then they can still register you even if your school isn't registered. So that's pretty good to know.
That is
Um,
good to know because
yeah.
you have your options as long as you've taken your training with a registered school. But there's a lot of people that are leaning away from Yoga Alliance, and it's definitely possible to offer a 200-hour teacher training that is not registered with Yoga Alliance. There's no state or government or even insurance law that we're aware of that requires you to be registered with Yoga Alliance. And depending on how you feel about flexibility and guidelines, it might be a lot easier for you to lead a teacher training without having to jump through the hoops and particularly the enhanced application process that Yoga Alliance has outlined and mandates to become registered. It is definitely a lot easier. You don't have to follow all of these guidelines. And there are other organizations, like you mentioned, Aruna. Not many of them are nonprofit like Yoga Alliance, so do keep that in mind. And what's interesting about the Yoga Alliance registration is they actually require your manual up front. Now, you won't have to prepare a manual if you're not registering with Yoga Alliance, but we think you might do that anyway. You might still follow the same process, just with less restrictions and less governance over what it is that you're delivering. So this is yours, really.
Yeah, the standards have changed a lot. Like I've got up here the Yoga Alliance guidebook. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to register a school. That is kind of nice, I think, for students to know that at least you're going to get a manual with your training. I guess you could always ask the training whether you're going to get a manual or to look at the manual if they're not registered. But one of the things I like that I'm seeing on the Yoga Alliance is they have made a push to cover the policies like the anti-harassment policies, anti-sexual harassment policies, anti-retaliation policies. And we were talking to a teacher the other day who actually was harassed in a training. And that trainer was removed from the training staff because they were able to report that to the school and to Yoga Alliance. The other thing that I like that I'm seeing that Yoga Alliance is doing is with the core competencies, they really want to see that the roots of yoga are honored. And I think that that leads to less appropriation and a greater appreciation of the deep roots of yoga and the rich history of yoga and philosophy, the roots from India, and there's even some research to show maybe from Africa, and just the lineage of yoga is honored and respected with the Yoga Alliance. It's a requirement of Yoga Alliance. So that's something I like about the registration right now with Yoga Alliance. Although Claire and I, we don't love Yoga Alliance. We've talked about this many times. I get that they're a pain for sure, but they have made moves to improve things. And it's not just a rubber stamp anymore. There is a back and forth. So with most schools, like we've heard Yoga Alliance say 9 out of 10 schools don't get approved on the first pass. And we even have an approved curriculum in the Yoga Trainer Fast Track that's been approved by other schools, and they'll still come back and find things. So they really are looking at the application. It's not just a rubber stamp.
Yeah. And that's honestly my feelings towards Yoga Alliance is I think they do some good work. I think there's room for more, and I'm hopeful that what they're working towards is going to benefit everybody. In terms of another benefit of Yoga Alliance is there definitely is some accountability. So your students have the accountability or the ability to report any misconduct to Yoga Alliance. If you don't register your school with Yoga Alliance, it just becomes a he said, she said, maybe a bad Google review, but there's no governing body that's going to step in and hear both sides of the story. So a grievance policy is definitely something that Yoga Alliance is going to ask you for prior to you registering your school. They want to know what your process looks like. If you don't deliver what you said you were going to deliver, what recourse do your students have, and more so if there's any misconduct or, unfortunately, we've seen in the yoga world any misbehavior. So there is recourse for your students, which could actually be a benefit for you. When we talk about Yoga Alliance being a marketing expense, knowing that your students have the support of an alliance behind them so that you're going to deliver what you said you would. If you don't, or if they feel unsafe in that, there's somewhere they can go to, is really, really important. And not only is there sort of grievance protocols in place, every year as the trainer, you have to adhere to and accept this ethical commitment and make a statement that you are accepting this commitment and you agree to the terms of this commitment. So are these commitments followed up on? Well, to be a yoga school, it costs $240 a year. And we know all the registered yoga schools that there are. For $240 a year, Yoga Alliance is doing more work than checking up. That spot checking schools and trainings. But if there was a problem, there's a place to report it. So I think that's really, really, really important that and I think that could be a marketing feature for you, even though it's an expense. They can offset themselves. And I've never heard of people not taking a training because it's not registered with Yoga Alliance. I don't know that anybody would say, oh, it's registered with Yoga Alliance, I'm not taking it. It's there for the offering, but you could lose students if you don't register.
Yeah, that's how we look at it for our 200-hour training. It is a marketing expense for our business. And for the number of students that it brings in, so to register a school is $640 the first year, and then $240 every year after. And the number of students who want it to be registered with Yoga Alliance more than covers that marketing expense. That's how we look at it. The other thing I appreciate is that, I used to have shorter workshops and people would ask if they're Yoga Alliance registered. The cost of the time it takes to educate people about why they don't need Yoga Alliance is almost worth the $240 a year as well. So
What?
if you want to, if you want to re-educate the population and make that your mission, about, I want to make sure people don't realize they don't need Yoga Alliance. That's fine. I appreciate that, why you might want to do that. For me, I feel like it's just worth the money to just pay it every year to Yoga Alliance. It's not unusual for any professional organizations, teachers, lawyers, even daycare providers. You have to be registered with a governing body that's upholding standards, which means you're doing continuing education and you're committing to those agreements of the sexual harassment policies, and that you're committing to delivering the training that you said you were going to deliver on your application. That's not unusual for any professional organization. And I do want yoga to be a professional organization and delivered professionally. So I think it's worth it for that amount of money as a marketing expense.
I agree. It's worth it. It can be complicated. We have made it our business to stay on top of the standards, all of the changes, all the up leveling. But we want to see more qualified yoga teachers fulfilling their dreams and continuing to spread yoga. We don't want policy to get in the way.
We're not afraid of the process, which most
Yeah, we
people
recognize
we
that.
talk to are afraid of, like, oh no, yoga lines come back again.
Yeah, like we respect that policies have to be in place, but they can also be intimidating. So this is the work that we do, and we'd really love to just talk to you if this is the direction that you're heading. We can help you out with the Yoga Trainer Fast Track.